Welcome, BimmerHead enthusiasts. I have some information about BimmerHead's heavy-duty valve springs for BMW M20 engines that BimmerHeads was unable to provide me. I had the valves and seats, everything installed by my local machine shop, and they asked me a simple question: what is the installed height of these BimmerHeads HD Valve Springs? Well, I called BimmerHeads and they told me that they don't know. They said it's just a drop-in replacement. And I said, well, can you just give me a number? Like, what is the stock, installed height? And he said, I don't know. He said, I would have to look really deep into my notes to find it. He said, but it should just be fine to throw in. And that was, quote unquote, their lead machinist. Well, my lead machinist at my machine shop was able to just figure it out by measuring it, and I'm going to give it to you. So the shim that goes under the spring bucket is 60 thousandths of an inch. Okay? Without that shim, he even measured it with and without the shim. Without the shim, my installed height is 1 inch 480 thousandths, and it has 50 pounds of spring pressure. And at full lift, it was 1 inch and 26 thousandths at 175 pounds. Coil bind was at 0.860 thousandths. Okay, and then installed height with the shims, the way that they are intended to be installed, I told him to use just the shims on this, but he measured both because he was skeptical. As I'm very grateful that he is as a machinist, he was very careful with this. He didn't want to guess. He measured, and it is 1 inch 420 thousandths, and you get 65 pounds of seat pressure resting. Okay, so at full lift with this Cat Cams 285, that was 964 thousandths and 200 pounds of spring pressure. So that's the exact specs, and that was given to me freely from my machinist, but was basically impossible to get from the vendor of the springs. I'm not saying that the springs are bad. I'm not saying that they won't work or anything, but apparently that was difficult to get, and my machinist just objectively used facts and measured it and then presented that. So I hope this helps someone else who's looking, and hope your experience with BimmerHeads is good. So 60 thousandths shim. Trying to think of anything else that I was told from them, but that's about it. They do look really good. I hope they hold up and last. I've got their HD rocker arms as well, and they seem to be okay so far. The only issue that I had was when I put the eccentrics in the end, there were some pieces of the casting that weren't perfectly ground off, so I actually had to use a tiny file to grind off some of the imperfections so that it would let the eccentric go all the way through. So they're not, amazingly well made, but once I ground those a little bit, the eccentrics went in just fine. It was only I don't know, maybe 5 of them out of 12 that were that way. So that is your information on BimmerHead's HD Valve Springs. Thanks.